Good morning. I'm really glad to be here, and I wish to thank all the organizers of this event for their kind invitation. I would like to provide you with an overview on geoethics, its definition, vision, concepts, and values, and to highlight how and why geoethics can really represent a new way of thinking and managing global problems affecting the interaction between humans and the Earth system. The process that has led to develop geoethical thinking has started from an increasing need among geoscientists to reflect on the ethical and social values that underlie geoscience research and practice. Using georesources, intervening in natural processes, finding ways to live with hazards are all activities that imply great responsibilities, not only in scientific terms, but also from an ethical and social perspective. But what ethical criteria can guide geoscientists in their activity? What is their social role? And how can they find right solutions to guarantee a balance between conservation of environment and social-economic development? Geoethics was born to answer these and related questions. In the last years, geoethics has been equipped with a solid conceptual substratum that can be applied to the entire range of geoscience disciplines that include natural resources and risks, management of land and oceans, energy, pollution, climate change, and also research integrity and deontology, education in geoscience, as well as geodiversity, geoheritage, and so on. But let's go into the matter. What do we mean by ethics? Ethics reflects on the conduct of humans and the criteria on which to evaluate behaviors and choices in order to identify the true good and the means to achieve this goal. Ethics is intended to clarify for a given circumstance what to do and how to do it on the basis of a framework of reference values, taking into account the consequences of that act. Ethics, with regard to a profession, is the identification of duties and rights that regulate the activity of a professional group who possess a specific technical scientific knowledge. In the field of geosciences, we refer to the more specific term geoethics. Geoethics has been defined as the research and reflection on the values that underpin appropriate behaviors and practices wherever human activities interact with the Earth system. This definition provides a basis for analysis and practice and highlights the need to identify values on which to base the relationship between humans and the planet. Moreover, geoethics deals with the ethical, social, and cultural implication of geoscience research and practice, and with the social role and responsibility of geoscientists in conducting their activities. This phrasing reflects the centrality of the geosciences as a significant body of technical scientific knowledge and practice to inform human interaction with the Earth. And geoscientists are asked to assume the responsibility of using their knowledge for the benefit of society. But what does this responsibility consist of? Geoscientists' responsibility can be referred to four different ethical domains: the individual, the interpersonal, the societal, and the environmental domains. In the individual domains, each geoscientist has the responsibility to conduct the work to the best of own ability, maintaining high standards of intellectual honesty, pursuing excellence in science, and professionalism in doing the job. These may consist on the set of duties that you can read in the slides and that Surya Parkas has just presented very well. In the interpersonal domain, geoscientists should assess actions with respect to the working environment, colleagues, and wider profession. It is their responsibility to cooperate with colleagues honestly, to welcome fair debate and embrace a diversity of perspectives, to foster mutual understanding, share information and data, and so on. In the societal domain, each geoscientist has the responsibilities toward human communities. Geoscientists produce knowledge and design solutions for the benefit of society. It is their responsibility to serve society as effectively as possible in order to support its development and assure its safety. Research results and their application should be shared with the relevant public and non-expert audiences, but in a ways that address their knowledge, interests, needs, and concerns in a user-friendly way. Geoscientists should take care of communication with policymakers and public bodies, and should develop constructive interactions with academia and industry. They have a key role in the training and skills development of technicians and professionals, and in particular, in participating in public engagement, awareness raising, and educational activities. Finally, the environmental domain. Geoscientists' role in helping to manage the natural realm implies their responsibility toward the environment. Geoscientists have knowledge, expertise, professional, and also cultural sensibility that are essential to protect natural environments, to manage the use of natural resources and places, to enhance the scientific, educational, cultural, and aesthetic value of geodiversity, and to entrust this value for future generations. These four domains are fundamental for developing the geoethical analysis of a problem. They have been summarized in the Geoethical Promise, that is a Hippocratic-like oath for geoscientists. So the concept of responsibility is central in geoethics. The word responsibility means to respond, and so it expresses the commitment to answer to someone for our actions and their consequences, the duty to satisfactorily perform a task which has consequent penalty for failure. Penalty for failure intended not only in legal terms or with reference to an economic or disciplinary sanction, but also in terms of loss of credibility and respectability. The concept of responsibility implies the need to define the perimeter of the geoscientist action, and therefore to identify the role that the geoscientist must play in the decision-making chain. Well-defined and shared operational protocols are required to avoid an overlapping of tasks and to assure clarity in the decision-making process. Regarding this aspect, a paradigmatic and negative example is the L'Aquila earthquake case occurred in Italy, and that maybe some of you remember. In the judgment at first instance, 7 scientists were convicted for negligence in seismic risk assessment after the city of L'Aquila had been destroyed in 2009 by an earthquake and 300 people died. The lack of clarity on the role of the various actors involved, decision makers, scientists, mass media, population, led to a confused message to citizens about the risk they were running and about the preventive actions to be adopted. But with the third and finally judgment, 6 out of 7 scientists were acquitted. And this made it clear that negligence cannot be attributed to scientists who only had the role of scientific advisors and not of decision makers. So the distinction of the roles and responsibilities is fundamental. In order to better understand the responsibilities of geoscientists and to inform their actions, it is essential to identify reference values capable of guiding choices and behaviors. 3 sets of values have been proposed, grouped according to their functional aim. Ethical values such as honesty, accountability, professional, and stewardship that can be integrated with awareness, accuracy, cooperation, inclusiveness, and fairness. They assure adherence to regulations and to scientific methods, sharing of results, respect of intellectual property, rules on authorship, and the due scrutiny of conflicts of interest. Cultural values. Geosciences have a great cultural value, capable of influencing the current and future way of thinking about the Earth. And geoethics highlights and enhances the cultural dimensions of the geosciences so that it can help guide society in its choice of responsible behavior towards the Earth. Concepts such as geoheritage, geoconservation, and geodiversity bring together not only scientific but also cultural elements capable of strengthening our sense of belonging to the land we inhabit. They are practical expressions of taking a geoethical view on the planet and starting points to develop best practices in managing environment. And finally, social values, general societal concepts that are widely applicable across fundamental global challenges of our times, such as sustainability, prevention, and geoeducation, that can be regarded as a set of shared social values, helping to frame a new common vision for our societies in the coming decades. In particular, the concept of sustainability as a double social value. In the near term, it raises the need to minimize and optimize the production and use of energy and minerals, and to facilitate transition to the use of renewable energies. In the long term, it highlights the need to build new models of economic development that reduce damages to the Earth. The concept of prevention has a clear social implication, since a culture centered on prevention is the way to improve the resilience of human communities. And similarly, geoeducation that allows to transfer geoscience knowledge to the public and to give geosciences a fundamental role in building a knowledgeable society by raising the awareness about how the Earth system operates and evolves. The translation into practice of geoethical values is represented in professional settings by codes of conduct, which prohibit inappropriate practices and foster proper ones. But sometimes they are not sufficient to increase the ethical standards of a scientific community, probably because to make sense of an ethical action, it is important to understand the value that is behind that action. And this is possible only through ethics, education, and training. Let's go on. There is a fundamental prerequisite for acting ethically, that is freedom. Without freedom, there is no possibility of taking an ethical decision. When we cannot choose because we are influenced by external pressures or conflict of interest, we can act only in one way, whether it means adopting a right or a wrong solution. A further important point, the difference between an ethical issue and an ethical dilemma. An ethical issue presupposes the existence of a choice between two alternatives. one of which is clearly better than the other one, taking into account the reference system of social, scientific, economic, and cultural values in which one is acting. But often in geosciences, we are in front of ethical dilemmas where there is not one perfect choice, but rather there are different options, all with inevitable negative impacts on society or the environment. Just as an example, a dam can strongly impact on a natural habitat, but at the same time, it can ensure protection from floods and water supply for thousands of people. Could we consider its construction unethical? And similarly, in developed countries, it is common to consider mining a threat to human health and nature. But mining is surely an opportunity for development of economically depressed areas. So positive and negative aspects should be considered, and also from different perspectives. For example, in the short and long term, or on a small and large scale. And sometimes bad consequences must be carefully evaluated and in some case even accepted. So the aim of the geoethical analysis is to find the point of equilibrium that optimizes the sum of the effects and allows the best choice for the human community and the environment involved, shared by all those who will share also its consequences, positive or negative. And this implies the importance to work with all the stakeholders to determine where there is a reasonable alignment of values, economic, social, and moral values, and opportunities for collaborative action that will create sustainable benefit for all parties. And in any case, not always taking a final decision is a duty of a geoscientist, but can depend on political issues. Geoscientists must not replace who are really in charge of the decision-making process, but have to provide them with all the exhaustive elements to take a decision as sustainable as possible for that social and environmental system. To conclude, a summary of the main characteristics of geoethics. A distinguishing feature of geoethics is that it is actor-centric, and in particular centered on informing the conceptual frameworks and practical interventions of the individual scientist. Moreover, geoethics is based on geoscience knowledge. The geoscientist who possesses a specific corpus of knowledge is equipped to promote attitudes and ways of thinking founded on that knowledge base to find the most acceptable ways to interact with the planet. Geoethics is a virtue ethics, placing at the forefront individual responsible action based on the adoption of societal and professional reference values. Its development and application are led by scientists for the benefit of society within a pragmatic, open, and continuous revision process. And finally, geoethics is context-dependent in space and time. And this means that it is shaped by a strong awareness of the environmental, economic, cultural, and political limits existing in different socio-ecological contexts. Well, I have concluded, and I hope I have been able to suggest some cues for thought and to clarify my firm conviction of the importance to cultivate the ethical dimension in geosciences to fully understand the values that are behind the concreteness of our action as geoscientists. So thank you for your attention, and thanks to all the IAPG India members for the great efforts to develop geoethics in your country.